Hey friends, you are crafting with Kim Byers, and today we are talking 15 tips, tricks, and hacks for Cricut beginners. So these are things that you're just going to want to put in your back pocket, and when you're crafting, these are going to be great ideas to save you time, save you money, save you frustration. So I am big about you guys being able to craft with confidence. I want you to be able to enjoy crafting and have fun. That's the whole point, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through 15 things today to make sure that you have more fun when you craft. By the way, I would love it if you would hop down in the comments and tell me which one of these you are going to, put into practice in your own craft room. And I am putting down in the links in the description below all the things that we're using today, including a link to this cut file. Okay, so let's hop over to the craft table and tip number one. Start at the beginning. Let's start in Cricut Design Space. There are 3 tips and tricks I want to share with you about Cricut Design Space that are pretty much universal to anything you are making. So what I love to do is use the Shapes tool. So if you go down into Shapes and you have all these different choices in here, and we select an oval. So we bring that oval around, and now I want to do it vertical, or put the design on it vertical. So I'm going to flip it around, and then I am going to go up into size, and I am going to type in the size that my frame actually is. The other thing you can do, and this helps me visually, is to go over into color and change it. So for instance, if your frame was yellow, you could make that yellow so you can get a good representation of what that's going to look like. Okay, so let me just show you this. So you bring this over, and so then you're like, okay, I can resize this and kind of see how it's going to go. So what you need to do is grab the design and the shape that you created with the Shift key, or grab them over in your Layers panel, and then you're just going to go up into Align, and you're going to align it. Did you see that? Did you see it move over? Do it vertically and horizontally, and so now you know that it is perfectly aligned to your frame, and so this is what it's going to look like when it gets to your frame. So if you click off, and I personally think that might be just a smidge too big for my frame, so then I'm going to grab it again and just go up into Align and center horizontally and vertically. Okay, so I think that looks a ton better than the way it was before. So that was actually a couple of tips wrapped up in one, how to use the Align tool. You will use that with every project that you create, Shapes and Align. Now the other thing is Layers panel. I can't tell you how many times I get comments or questions from people. They're like, my tools don't show up, my slice, my weld, my attach. Why are they hidden? Why are they gray? And so my best tip to you is, so look at this. When I click on this design and you're like, well, I only clicked on one thing. But if you look over in the Layers panel, it's 4 things because they're grouped, because they're together, right? Okay, so this confuses a ton of people. You have to go over into the Layers panel and click on one thing. Do you see how I'm just clicking on one thing? And then if you want to use, so for instance, the contour tool, you have to be clicking on one thing. If I click on the entire design, do you see how my contour tool hides? Because it won't let you do that. You have to click on one thing, and then you can go into contour, and then you can take out whatever piece you didn't want, to be there. And then obviously the little eye right here, if you just want the whole thing to go away, you just use the eye. One more thing that I think will be a game changer for people and keep them from being frustrated in Cricut Design Space, there's a ton of confusion between the group function and the attach function. So when you click on this design that I created and you look over into Layers, you see that it is grouped. Okay, so it has 4 different elements, although 2 are the same color. And so I did this on purpose because I wanted to show you guys something. And the other thing is if you look down to attach, you see that attach is available. Group is not, because it's already grouped. To work with something on the canvas, you simply have to group it. So I can move it all over the place and nothing shifts, nothing moves out of place because it's grouped. But when you go to the mat, if it's not attached, it's going to break apart. So things aren't going to stay where they need to stay. So even though my verse and my light bulb are the same color of blue, they're not going to stay together because they are not attached. They are simply grouped, okay? So what you want to do is just ungroup these, and so you can see them all as individual pieces. If you grab John 8:12 and you grab the little light bulb there, that's just those 2 things are highlighted, and you attach them, now when you go to the mat, they are going to go to the mat together. So let's check that out. So now you can see we have 3 different colors. We have Let Your Light Shine. We have our bulb, which by the way, there it is. It has our verse on it. And then we have our pink element. Okay, there's one more little tip, little thing I want to tell you guys before we move on, and this is in relation to all vinyl, all iron-on. Some people may even get confused with paper. There is a function underneath each one of these mats. You see it? Mirror, mirror, mirror. When you mirror image, it's when you're using heat. You're going to use mirror imaging for any of your iron-on. You're going to use mirror image for any of your infusible ink, or if you're using Cricut Design Space for sublimation, which by the way I have a video on that. I'll put that one up above. But you're going to need to mirror image whatever it is you're working with. But if you are using vinyl, no mirror image, okay? So just think heat, I need to mirror image. If there's no heat, you're good. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so here we are over on the craft table. We're ready to cut out our design, and we have multitude of mats. So just really quickly, the purple is your strong grip, the green is your just like everyday regular, the blue is your light grip, so for like lightweight papers and things like that, and then your pink is your fabric. They all get dirty. They all get dirty. And if you are like me, you do not want to spend money on more mats. What you want to do is buy like the pretty iron-on and the pretty, you know, vinyl and that kind of thing. So what I'm going to show you today is just a really quick way to clean that mat. And I chose the worst one I had, which is the strong grip. And actually, I have damaged this mat by cutting into it because I was cutting some really thick material on it. So basically this mat has been trashed. So it has a ton of fabric and debris right here. And then I have actually used a wet wipe and cleaned the top 2 inches to get all of that off. And I wanted to leave some on because I wanted to show you how well it worked. So I just took a wet wipe and I cleaned the top 2 inches super well and allowed them to dry. And then, and it looked just like this. And so if I, you know, my finger's not, I mean, it's not sticking at all, but then you go here, you guys hear it, and it's picking the mat up. It's cleaned with a wet wipe just to get a little bit more use out of it. The key to these wet wipes, no alcohol. Get the ones that are like for, you know, sensitive skin and things like that. They don't have any alcohol in them, and they will clean those mats up nice. So while we're in cleaning mode, when you are going to apply vinyl to any type of surface like this, you want to clean it, and you want to clean it with alcohol, and you want something that has no lint. So this is actually just a little makeup round. You can put the alcohol on it and wipe down your substrate. If you don't have anything like that, or a lint-free towel, like they sell, you know, lint-free like paper towels. I think Scott's brand has some. They're like blue. But if you don't have something like that, you can take a just a simple coffee filter, and I have way too many of these around my house. But you can take a coffee filter and put some alcohol on it and clean your surface. Your vinyl will adhere much better if it's clean. As much as I love to craft, I love to save time because I want to create more things. So this is just a quick little tip to help you to be able to not spend a ton of time, you know, switching out mats and things. So when you have a design like this, so if you look at each mat, so we have, you know, what is it, 4 1/4 by 5, and then we have this one is a little bit larger at 6 inches by 9, and then we have this very tiny little heart. Well, candidly, if they were all the same color, they could all cut on the same mat, right? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to make a call, and we are going to put them all on one mat. So we know how big they are. So this is literally like, what, 2 inches by 2 inches will get the whole thing. We're going to move it over into that corner just by grabbing it. Move it over into that corner. Then we're going to look at this one. It's the largest one. I'm going to leave it where it is. And then if we look at this mat, it is what, a little over 4 and almost 5. So we're going to move that down into the bottom corner. And so if I look at each one of these, yeah, these guys are not going to overlap, even though they're all different colors. So let's hop over to the craft table, and I'm going to show you how you put your material on this mat so that you literally just have to keep clicking cut. You don't have to you know, like go back to the table and, you know, switch it out for another color and all that kind of thing. You're going to be able to cut all 3 colors on the same mat at different times. Ready? So let's make the most of our time and our material. So I use my paper trimmer. I love it because it's got a ruler this way, and so I know I need basically a little shy of a 2. And so I'm able to like cut out exactly how much material I need. Just gonna use a pair of scissors and trim off that little section. So I know it is perfectly sized and the rest stays on my roll, which I love. So now I have 3 different colors that I've all cut out to the exact size that I need, and I have 1 mat. So what I'm going to do is I set up those elements to go in different corners, right? So I'm going to put my pink in this corner. You can use your finger if it's really tacky, or a scraping tool to put this down. I'm going to put my largest color here. And then I'm going to put my other color in this corner. And so now I don't have to run back to the craft table between cuts. Okay, so here we are on the machine, and so the machine has already cut all 3 of these designs. Well, in between each cut, I simply hit the unload button, unloaded it, and then just reloaded it right there and hit cut, and it moved on to the next image. Here's the kicker. I love this. If you think you didn't cut something deep enough, especially with paper, sometimes it doesn't work really great. If you don't unload it and you just re-hit the cut button, that cut button is going to go over that same cut that it just did perfectly. It's going to just give it 1 more cut. Don't unload it, just hit the C button and it will recut the same image twice. Okay, so here we are back on the craft table, and so we have all of our cut elements done. And so I actually have multiple tips for you when you are weeding. First of all, leave it on the mat. So use it like a third hand. And so like for me, I have 3 different elements, but even if you just had 1, you just, turn it, orient it towards yourself and start weeding with it still on the mat, keeping your hand off of the sticky sides. And so it just kind of holds it down for you, and it makes things a whole lot easier. Okay, so in addition to leaving it on the mat, you can also take some masking tape and wrap it around your hand. So just put a little piece of the sticky down and then wrap it around and wrap it against itself so it's on your wrist. And so now that you have this one, it's a bunch of lettering, and so there's a lot of small little elements inside. And so if you don't have something to like tack them to, they kind of get all over the place and they can get back on your design, and then you pick it up with a transfer tape and it's kind of a nightmare. They do also sell, and I'll put a link down below, but there's like this little ring thing that you can put on your finger, and you can actually put the little pieces into the ring. I may get me one of those, but this is the cheap, easy hack to be able to just do it without buying anything. This is something you probably already have in your craft room, but you just keep going along and taking out the elements and then putting them on that sticky piece. You can also take the blunt end of your tool and hold down your element while you pull away at the larger outer area, and then that just makes sure that your heart or whatever you're working with doesn't pull away. Okay, so now everything is weeded, and what we're going to do is we want to take our materials off of the mat, and I'm just using a brayer to make sure everything is down and there's no bubbles or anything like that before we use the transfer tape to pick it up. But getting things off of the mat, especially a sticky mat, can be tough, especially when you're using iron-on or paper or vinyl. You don't want it to crease. So what do? You flip it over and you bend the mat, not the material. The mat can take it, and this way you have no creases in your material. Transfer tape. When it comes to transfer tape, there are 2 kinds. Don't buy the wrong kind. Don't use the wrong kind. So there is regular transfer tape, and so it just looks like the grid, and then Cricut has a strong grip transfer tape. This stuff is insanely strong and required, absolutely needed if you're going to be using glitter vinyl. Regular transfer tape will not pick it up. I've had so many friends tell me that they have struggled with either one of two things. Either they did glitter because they wanted to put it on something and tried to use standard and it wouldn't pick it up and they were so frustrated, or they accidentally bought strong grip and used it on regular vinyl and then the design would never come off of the strong grip. So just tip, make sure that you are using the right one. The purplish one is the strong grip. Don't use it on anything except glitter. And then the regular is the one that you're going to use more often. So this is the one we're going to use today. Okay, so I called this tip Brayer Magic. So this is a brayer, and this is used to place fabric onto your mat, but it is perfect. It is the perfect tool for putting your transfer tape onto your design. Okay, so once you have it in place, just run over it multiple times, picking up all the tiniest of little elements. Okay, and then we'll pick up our design. There we go. Okay, and so there we have our design. And so now what we want to do is we want to place it onto our mat, and we're going to use that brayer again. So one thing I would caution you is just to make sure that your heart is going to fit. So when you're placing your lettering, yes, it should be just fine. So we'll move that out of the way. Okay. And then we just use that brayer and go over it multiple times. I find this so much more effective than just using the scraping tool. We're going to pull from a corner. Perfect. And if you're out of transfer tape and you just have to get something done before you get to the store, you can use a lint roller to pick up that. It's just, you know, a sticky tape, and you can use a piece of your lint roller. If I could get it off the, there we go. So you just take a piece off and use it just like transfer tape. So it's got one sticky side, put it down, you can use your brayer. It will pick up your design, and then you can put it into place. Perfection. Okay, so last but not least, my #1 tip for the new Cricut user is actually something to avoid. So for your sanity, I am telling you to avoid tiny cuts, avoid the tiny things. Once you get used to everything and you've made some beautiful stuff and you've gained some confidence, absolutely jump in on the tiny stuff, because Cricut will cut it. But if you start out with the tiny, you're gonna get frustrated, you're gonna get aggravated, and then you're not going to want to use your machine. So my #1 tip to you is go big in the beginning. I would stick with things like this, like a shape, you know, a simple shape that you can easily create, or even just doing just the heart, or this design, which is, you know, lettering that's already put together for you. It does have a cool little element where you could weed out that, you know, individual stripe right inside of there, giving it that 3D effect, but it's simple, yet it's darling. Go big in the beginning, friends, trust me. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed all of those tips, and I hope that you're going to use some of them. And actually, I would love you to hop down in the comments below and let me know which one you didn't know about, or which one you're definitely going to give a whirl. And I would love for you to hit that subscribe button and join me for all my future videos. See you next time.